Let's look forward. Where do we go from here? And I'd like to turn to you, Kobi, and just ask your thoughts. Might we see this embassy move, which has clearly put the Palestinian, the peace process back on, it's on our television screens, it's back on everybody's radar once again in a fairly major way. Might something come out of this? Might we see new life being breathed into the peace process as a result?
Not from this necessarily, but I think that first of all we have to think and to speak not in terms of peace process, but in terms of political process, not in terms of conflict resolution, final status agreement, but in other terms. We have to be much more modest because there is no ripeness in both sides for final status agreement. But it doesn't mean that we cannot do something else, okay, which is less than final status agreement. Secondly, we have finally to acknowledge in the very basic fact and in the reality that we are talking about two independent Palestinian entities which are divided not only geographically between the Gaza Strip and the West Bank, not only ideologically between Hamas and the Fatah, but we are talking about two entities which are hostile towards each other, and there is a sort of a zero-sum game between of them, and the reconciliation process is a facade, and the probability that the PA and Abu Mazen will be able to come back to the Gaza Strip and to regain control over the Gaza Strip is something which is closer to illusion than to a reality, and therefore we have to be able to adjust two different strategies. One strategy towards the Gaza Strip and another strategy towards the West Bank. And I think that there is a sort of ripeness with regard to the Gaza Strip to reach to a sort of understandings between Israel and the Hamas that will be facilitated by Egypt and the international community, but Egypt should play a very significant role here, based on the principle of Hudna, and messages in this regard were sent to Israel just recently. And Israel and Hamas can reach to such understandings even in or via or through indirect negotiation between of them. And it was before. And in the West Bank, we have to concentrate on a bottom-up process, a sort of a state-building process that will fortify and strengthen the institutional capacities of the PA, the economic situation. Israel, I think, could be more flexible with regard to the territorial dimension in some aspects, and to understand that we have to be more modest and to think about interim agreements or maybe interim agreements, okay, because there is no ripeness for final status agreement.
Let me